I'm done. I'm gonna roll the hose up. I'm done.
These kind of projects are so stressful. I'm gonna be so glad tomorrow when it's done. And I'm sure Heath is gonna be more relieved than I am.
Huh? Where you been? You been stretching your legs? Looking back on the last 4 years of our life, I can tell you this for certainty. I had no clue what I was about to get into, but I can also tell you for certainty, it was the best decision we ever made.
Getting ready for the concrete check to come. I came here to inspect Heath's work. See how it's coming along. He's been busy.
So we get to take this all apart and figure it out?
Yep, and figure it out.
You gonna help me?
Yep.
You got your bucket of tools?
Uh-huh.
You got all the tools over there? It's a beautiful day, right, Reedy?
A wonderful day to be a family.
A wonderful day to be a family?
Yeah.
I agree, son.
And all this stuff.
You just want to ride the motorbike with Retro though, right?
With you too.
Me too, because it's kind of fun when we was chasing after Rhett. That's a fun one?
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's a wonderful day to be a family. Who would have guessed that 4 years later, a statement that a 3-year-old boy would make would have so much meaning here and now? This is why people buy track houses. Nobody in their right mind would do this. Would fight the elements the way that we're fighting the elements. The road actually isn't horrible, but what's horrible is my road up to where I need to get them, which is up there. So what I'm probably gonna do is I'm probably gonna bring my tractor, my old faithful tractor, down here and take these forms up 8 or 10 at a time. Here's what the last 3 days of setting forms looks like. These are all 2x8 forms. You know, the system itself, as far as putting them together, is not horribly complicated. What's complicated is fighting all this mud and muck. After a whole lot of struggle and a whole lot of effort, I finally got the concrete forms in place, finally got the concrete trucks up to our property, and got the foundation poured. Little did I know at this moment that I would not touch this foundation that was supposed to be our house for nearly 4 years. The closest that I've ever come to giving up along the way was right around this time. I could not see a light at the end of the tunnel at this moment in my life. We're done. We got her poured. We got everything squared up and trued up, and this back wall was a real concern until I got those guys. It turned out perfect. Using the old tractor once again to put a little leverage on the walls to get things where we want them. I'm just trying to get these last dozen or so 8-foot forms on the trailer, because I'm going to take them back in the morning and I want to get these 8-footers done. So I'm going to work for a couple hours and see if I can't get this finished up.
You finally decided to get home. It's 10:30.
Yep.
You're usually home when the street lights are on.
If I ever touch another concrete form in my lifetime, it'll be too soon. I just stacked and moved 92 100-pound concrete forms. What did I leave? This 7 o'clock this morning, 6:30 this morning. I'm done. The walls are done. They're stripped. I'm going to install the area wells behind the windows today. I'm going to finish tarring this back wall so my backhoe operator can backfill all this. And then we're gonna get a little skid steer up here and level off the interior to where we can get hopefully the pad poured this week and be done with all the concrete work. Ben's like, man, this is comfy. It's almost still. One of the best things that has come from the last 4 years of videos on YouTube is the ability to go back and remind myself just how far we've come. Truthfully, I don't watch our videos. I typically watch them one time during the editing process, and that's it. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the process, and as soon as I get one done, I'm ready to move on to the next one and hopefully make it better. Over the last week, as we've been preparing to pour the shop foundation floor, I've taken some time to go back and watch some of those early videos of when we first put the foundation walls in. I've laughed during this process because I was so naive at what I thought I could get done and the time frame in which I thought I could get it done. And I've also cried. All right, I'm 48 hours away from pouring concrete on the shop floor. I have to backfill the sewer line so the concrete trucks can drive over it. I got a bunch of guys showing up to help me. I hate concrete. There's no room for error, and if you're not prepared, it doesn't go well, obviously. I've tried to get prepared. I feel like there's spots in the slab that are not as even as it could be. So again, I got 48 hours to get all the little bugs worked out, get the concrete poured, and hope and pray that everything goes as well as it can go. By the way, tomorrow it's going to be 90 degrees. The day after that, when we're pouring concrete, it's going to be 75. So I hate concrete. I hate concrete. I hate concrete. Observing the kids growing up on video is a beautiful thing, but at times it can be hard to watch because I feel like time is going by just a little too fast. But this is where we're at here and now. It's time to turn these concrete walls into a building where more beautiful memories can be made. We spent hours and hours and hours trying to get the dirt and the gravel brought to perfect grade. Evan, myself, and Rhett worked hard, running the compactor, moving dirt around. Backfilling the plumbing by hand shortly after having 2.5 days of rain, and the ground was really too wet to move around. My nephew Evan has more than proven himself along the way. The original plan was that this would be the house. That plan changed. We decided that we could build a smaller, more affordable house, and that this would be the shop. Before we can pour concrete, every opening in the foundation has to have a form set to grade in front of the opening to prevent the concrete from coming out. Truthfully, this would have been a beautiful spot for a home on our property. This is almost dead center of our property, and we put it here on purpose. Things changed. Of course, hindsight is 20/20, but it is what it is. We're now prepared to make the best of what we have to work with. As you saw in the video from 4 years ago, shortly after stripping the forms off the foundation, we basically stopped all work up here for quite a few months. We had record snowfall again. I may have only come up here once or twice over the winter because at that time I didn't have a plow truck. I tried to keep the road open with my little Ford tractor, and again at that time we just couldn't do it. Now as I'm preparing to turn this into my shop, we want this to be used for something more than just a place to change the oil in my truck.
Should we just snap the string line and be done with it? Get the truck line done right now? Yeah. Let's do it.
We'll definitely put a pool table out here and many other things that will create an opportunity for the family to have a little bit of fun when there might be some snow on the ground. At the last minute, literally 2 days before I had the concrete scheduled to be poured, I called Davey, the concrete guy, who actually helped me do the original walls almost 4 years ago, and I asked him if he had time to come help us pour the slab. His expertise very quickly came into play, and we realized that the dirt was low around the edges and we ordered an extra 3.5 yards just to be safe. I called up a bunch of other friends who showed up ready to help, and once the concrete truck finally showed up, we got to work. By the time they get up here to the ranch, it's at least an hour away from the batch plant. What that means is the concrete is already starting to set up. This first load of concrete was setting up quick. We did everything we could as fast as we could, and again, because we had the manpower, we were able to get it down. The temperature outside right now is about 70 degrees. The wind picked up, and wind is not your friend for many obvious reasons when you're laying concrete, but it accelerates the time frame in which the concrete's drying out. So this didn't help either, but again, we just kept moving forward. The thickness of the slab averaged out to be about 5 inches. As we poured the concrete, we lifted the rebar off the ground, ensuring that it was sitting in the middle of the concrete, and we just continued as a group to work through laying the concrete down. Cedar grabbed the dogs and the cats, ensuring that we don't end up with some unwanted footprints across the slab. We ended up using 24.5 yards, and I set up some forms for any extra concrete we might have. we ended up having about a yard of extra concrete.
Should I inspect your work?
I don't work so good on camera.
But that goes up.
Don't show up, make it look like you do work.
You like concrete now, Rhett?
I've done concrete a few times before, I just can't remember when.
You're pretty good.
Davey ran that power trowel over that slab until it was perfect. The small slab that will end up sitting under the firewood, I turned over to Rhett. Him and Evan and a couple of friends worked on it, and they did a great job. Concrete for the shop floor is done. Ended up being a total of 24.5 yards because I was a little bit thick on the edges, and rather than taking a chance and trying to keep the floor as flat as we could, we just ordered some extra mud. The first concrete truck on the way up here this morning turned around and started to go back, and thank goodness somebody caught him, so by the time the mud got here it was a little bit warm. But all in all, it turned out really well. I'm gonna let it cure for a few hours. I'm gonna go take a nap personally. And then this evening I'm gonna get out there and green cut it into 10-foot squares. And then Monday I'll strip the forms and we are ready for framing. So it went surprisingly well, and I couldn't be more grateful for the guys that helped me out. And anyway, next step is to start the framing.